Tacky Schema by Tallie Consulting Services and the right-hand persons. Tacky Schema is copyrighted and service marked by Shalandria or Tallie. Tacky Schema Preview. Tacky Schema was thought of and created by Shalandria or Tallie and or Tallie Consulting Services and the right-hand persons, LLC. Tallie Consulting Services and the right-hand persons, LLC, has a goal to improve programming for black populations, black Americans, African Americans, and or black immigrants who are struggling with substance use disorder, criminal behavior or thinking, and or gang involvement. Any terminology used in this preview of Tacky Schema is not intended to offend or cause harm to others. Its purpose is to educate and bring about understanding in an honest and truthful way. In the early 1990s, after being shot in the leg by an individual, I began to hang around a den, retail theft, boosting, burglary, black American, female crew in Dallas, Texas. In this article, Bad Nigger Struggling to Love God, I mentioned how blacks or African slaves stole chickens during slavery. What is all this Tacky Schema crap? We will discuss the schema component of Tacky Schema at a later date. When looking at the meaning or understanding of the word tacky in the black community, it has different meanings. What do black Tier 2 gang members and or the fires among us think of the word tacky? This is something we will discuss at a later date. For this preview of Tacky Schema, we will focus on two meanings in the Ebonics way. Not having enough clothes or outfits during an individual childhood period, and or not having enough clothes or outfits compared to an individual socioeconomic status and or social class. And number two, not wanting to live a life of being tacky. Important factors and experiences for black Americans during social change movements. The New Negro movement during the early 1900s. Tallie asserted there were 90% of blacks living in the Confederate South in 1900. Blacks began to move from the South Confederate states to the North. Cultural self-determination increased in the black population. Blacks became fashionable, such as black boxer Jack Johnson wearing tailored suits, crocodile shoes, and or having a mouth full of gold teeth. The women's rights movement and or civil rights movement during the 1960s. As Tallie asserted, black women experiencing oppression. Black women experience being stereotyped. Black women experiencing difficulties in their relationships with black men. Black women having to take a back seat to black men. As Tallie asserted that black immigrants make up 10% of the black population in America, and or black immigrants have found higher success in regards to socioeconomic factors than American-born blacks. We will continue to discuss the effects of these previous movements as well as the Black Liberation Movement and the Black Lives Matter movement at a future date. Offender education and or criminal behavior thinking. Tacky Schema, addiction offender cycle. We will use the addiction offender cycle to look at how the concept of Tacky Schema can be used in relapse prevention of users and or offenders. We are focusing currently on offender behavior for this example. This can be used for individuals who have a history of retail theft and or individuals who refuse to be tacky. Looking at the addiction offender cycle, offender are using thoughts or fantasies. How can the offender shatter the fantasy of not living a life of being tacky and or satisfy their basic needs: love and belonging, joy and fun, mastery, survival, and freedom, instead of satisfying their wants, having a certain amount of clothing and or outfits. Prison, community supervision, and or the role of forensic clinical psychologists. There were approximately 620,000 individuals who left prison and re-entered into society in 2017 after serving time in state and federal prison, and or the percentage of these individuals will relapse within 5 years due to minimized drug treatment services. Other factors contributing to recidivism of offenders are poor influences, which affect individuals' self-concept or identity, internal change, and or willingness to change throughout a normally 4-month prison-based treatment program. According to Galuzis et al. 2020, community supervision for individuals who have offended is less harmful than prison and or less criminogenic. One method in minimizing reoffending of offenders is utilizing cognitive behavior techniques as well as motivational interviewing and a rehearsal of problem-solving strategies. A method that can be utilized in treating individuals with substance use disorder is interpersonal psychotherapy, IPT, along with motivational interviewing techniques. Desmarius et al. 2016 argues psychologists are researching methods to enhance the effectiveness of risk assessment instruments, which is imperative for criminal justice reform, evidence-based corrections, reducing recidivism, and or using methods focusing on the individual needs. Future goals for the continued development of Tacky Schema. Tacky Schema, retail theft boosting, hustling, relapse prevention curriculum. Possibly Tacky Schema criminal thinking curriculum. Tacky Schema and our schema assessment instrument for drug treatment to enhance treatment planning for mandated and or incarcerated patient clients. Tacky Schema drug treatment and or offender treatment packet. Tacky Schema techniques and methods for licensed clinicians that can be incorporated with interpersonal psychotherapy, schema therapy, and or action-oriented therapies like cognitive behavior therapy and or reality therapy, which can be utilized for all populations regardless of race and or social class. This will be for any individual who find it difficult of not living a life, of not being tacky, and their life has become unmanageable. The word tacky will be added to a future Ebonics dictionary for licensed clinicians. Can Tacky Schema have the same impact as codependency had for the drug treatment community in the 1970s? Only time will tell. References.